Getting into SEO was a little bit of a roundabout journey that really came because I was just an entrepreneur at heart. And when Google was just becoming a new thing and entering the being widely known and widely used. So right around 2007, um, I was in a completely different market, world, business. I was doing real estate mortgages, creative deals, and I talked to a buddy of mine who was using YouTube videos, and he would like rank the video on the first page of Google. And then Google released what has become Google Maps. At the time, it was called Google Places. And, you know, admittedly, back then, we were just spamming. Like we could just keyword stuff the titles and we would rank in 15 minutes. And so we just thought that was the coolest thing in the world, that we could go on and create something on the web and generate leads in a day. And that kind of was just like we were hooked at that point. From that point to probably about 2010, I was sort of in between the two worlds. And it was one of those things where I was just becoming sort of known for it amongst friends and acquaintances. And they would come to me with questions, or they would say, "Hey, I got a friend who needs help with this thing." And it was about that 2011 when I started really realizing like this could be a career path. This could be a business. There's so much need for small businesses to be able to rank on the web and get business from the web. And I remember people in my social media feed saying like, helping small businesses get onto the web is the biggest opportunity, biggest blue ocean since, whatever. And so we jumped in with both feet and started doing it back then. And I've just always had a soft spot in my heart for SEO and search. I think part of it stems from the idea, because I'm very attached to being a teacher and sharing knowledge and helping people learn new insights. And so I think the content creation component of SEO is probably what attracted me most. Is I just, at heart, I loved sharing knowledge and helping people find the information they were looking for. In the early days, the search engines themselves weren't all that sophisticated. And at their core, what they're trying to do is organize information and deliver it to the right person at the right time. Well, underlying that idea is the searcher's intent. And I think if you had to boil down search marketing, it's really been the evolution of uncovering searcher's intent. And you can see it in that evolution from 2006 to now. And at that time, they were really sort of, I don't even know how to characterize it, but they were very surface level. And so oftentimes search results weren't that great. I think what's changed is the degree to which it started being very website centric at the onset, to where now I wouldn't say that the website isn't important. It's still very important, but the customer journey does not happen nearly so much on your website as it did a decade ago, right? And Google refers to it as the messy middle, meaning somebody's journey might start with a Google search and then end on your website, or your website might be in the middle of that process, and maybe where they landed before they called you was your Google business profile or one of your YouTube videos or your Yelp page or your Facebook page, and so on and so forth, right? There's no linear path anymore. And so now we're all having to try and calculate our plans, our publishing, our marketing strategies around this nebulous, messy journey for where it's different for every single client. I can remember moments that I think led me to where we are today, but it's not like they happened in a single crystallized moment. It was sort of a little bit haphazard and some insight here and there. The first inclination that I had it was probably around 2017 or 2018, whenever Google instituted RankBrain, which for me was the moment where I saw them shift gears from being an outside in the discerning context for the searcher. They used to go from the outside in, that's where we get all the notions that backlinks and content and all that. Why have we been doing all that stuff for 15, 20 years? And it's because, well, that was the only trail of breadcrumbs Google had to follow. And it was trying to discern your intent by following those breadcrumbs, right? You searched this thing and you went to this website, and then what does that say and who links to it and what other pages link to it? And so it's just sort of trying to piece together that picture, but it was a fuzzy picture all along. And so they were relying on the consumer to get us that down the last mile, so to speak, right? We would see a set of search results and then we would do the finishing search by sorting through and going, no, that didn't work, I'll go back. So then they started paying attention to that because they're like, oh, if somebody goes on a website and then goes back, they must not have found what they were looking for. And when it made that leap to using machine learning, I realized at that point, this is going to be a much, much bigger deal than maybe all of us really think. Then I started watching tools come on the scene like Jasper or Jarvis or whatever it used to be called. And, we tried leveraging that for content creation, but it was almost at that point in time, it was almost like the work involved to use the tool was almost just as much work as a human just writing the content. And so it didn't give you all that much leverage in my experience. And so, we would play with it. We tested other AI writers, but I don't think we really got serious about leveraging those types of tools until ChatGPT came out. And that was our first eye opener that we're at that tipping point, Then I started to see a trend where AI started to become simply an arms race to see who could proliferate the most content. And I know that anytime that happens, that's a losing game. The minute you start seeing, well, everybody has the same advantage, and the advantage is everybody can do more, well, then everybody's just going to do more until more no longer works. And oftentimes the reason it won't work is because the search engine just says, all right, that's enough. We're going to ignore you. We're going to de-index those pages or whatever the remedy is. At some point, that's just a no-win game. So I started thinking more about, well, what else could AI potentially do that you can't necessarily boil down to this zero-sum game of we're just going to do more. And I feel like the thing that most small businesses, most medium-sized businesses are going to have a very hard time replacing is the SEO strategist. And by strategist, what I mean is the guy or woman who knows how to implement in a prioritized way in order to create revenue. So lots of people can follow a blueprint. Lots of people can say, well, I'm going to write you 10 blogs a month and I'm going to build you 18 backlinks a month and they can follow a pattern. That's easy. And I can hire those types of people all day long at regular corporate salaries. But the guy who comes along and says, I can generate $1 million extra in revenue or 10 million extra in revenue, That guy will never come work for you for a salary. They will always, the level of knowledge and expertise they've achieved has a monetary value, and most of them know what it is or have a sense of what it is. So I got thinking, well, could machine learning augment that? Could it help someone like me or others who have that type of revenue producing skill? Could I become sort of like tech enabled and scalable from the strategy perspective? And that's what we've been focusing on and working on. I first saw the opportunity when I started seeing our longtime client, Richard Harris Law Firm in Las Vegas. He told me all the way back as far as 2018 that his intention was someday to build an in-house team. He wanted all of it in-house. And he told me selfishly, that's no reflection on you, Corey. But by their very nature, agencies have split priorities. They're focusing on many clients. I want somebody who does nothing but think about me and my business all day long, right? And I can't fault him. It's hard to argue with that logic. That's what I would want. So I started thinking about that problem. How do I solve for the agency, or I'm sorry, the business owner who wants to have an in-house team when I know for a fact they're never going to be able to afford, or it's going to be difficult. Most of them won't be able to afford that difference maker who knows how to move the needle and produce revenue. And I think that's a really exciting area where I can pair me and my team with an in-house team, and we can be that strategic difference maker and tell them precisely where to prioritize their efforts to move the needle and produce revenue.